Welcome to the Private Wireless podcast series from Nokia. On today's podcast, Caroline Williams, Head of Enterprise Solutions Marketing at Nokia, speaks with Jerry Karen and John Marcus from GlobalData to discuss the results of a recent report on return on investment of industrial digitalization towards private wireless.
Welcome everyone to this podcast where we are introducing a new research which we have done together with GlobalData. I am Caroline Williams. I'm the head of enterprise marketing for Nokia. And together with me here are John Marcus, principal analyst, enterprise technology and services at GlobalData, and Jerry Karen, head of research and analysis of GlobalData. Today we will be discussing some fantastic return on investment data that we found once enterprise customers, the early adopters, are deploying private wireless and industrial edge.
Tremendous. Thanks, Caroline. And I'm going to start off with a question, well, to both of you really, but I'll start off with John Marcus first. One thing is, how many people were surveyed, and what do you think was the biggest takeaway from both the survey and actually the interviews that we did as a follow-up to the survey?
Yeah, thanks, Jerry and Caroline. So we surveyed 79 industrial enterprises around the world in verticals including manufacturing, transportation, and energy. And in terms of takeaways, there were a few definite takeaways, including just how ready these industrial players seem to be to take advantage of private wireless and edge-enabled applications. And we talked to companies that have already deployed private 4G or 5G and those who are currently evaluating it. And I'd say the biggest takeaway was that more than half of them had already seen their total cost of ownership, or TCO, go down by more than 6% from an OPEX perspective. And almost a third had seen them go down by more than 10%. And that's the costs of running their site operations overall. And then in terms of the return on investment in choosing to deploy private wireless, it was quicker than I would have thought. For sure, almost 80% of enterprises had a return on investment or an expected return on investment within 6 months. So I think that would probably be the headline from what we saw in survey responses and interviews. And it should give confidence, I think, to industrial enterprises who might be sold on the concept, but have so far been unsure about the potential cost impacts of this kind of investment. Because cost was, unsurprisingly, the top barrier or concern that enterprises had before taking the plunge with private wireless. And so if I'm Nokia or another solution provider, I'd make sure of doing a good job demonstrating how, a private wireless and industrial edge solution can contribute to overall cost reductions, deliver a return on that investment quickly, because clearly it can be done. And enterprises should also look for a partner that can be flexible on commercial terms. Some of the decision makers we spoke to in interviews, for example, would point out that they were, trying to avoid CapEx at all costs. So if that's their financial strategy, the solution provider needs to be able to be flexible on that in terms of CapEx versus OPEX when it comes to TCO and ROI. So, Caroline, were you surprised by, the insights that we found, given those questions?
Yeah, the great thing that I've found, my biggest takeaway here, was that the ROI data is out there. So really, because we asked the early adopters, right? And we initiated this research because we did see one of the biggest barriers for adoption was unclarity about the business case, right? So it's new technology often. So what benefits will it bring? What will my ROI be? So the fact that we've now captured that data is fantastic for the industry as such, because it will help build business cases and it will help simplify and accelerate that digital transformation. I guess my biggest takeaway is indeed that data is out there, and not just on one objective like productivity or quality. It actually ranges across a wide range of objectives, right? It's sustainability, worker safety, cost reductions, as you said. So we see an impact on all of these. So that's really great to see.
Great. So a follow-up, if I can. So private wireless networks are pretty complex, and there's obviously a fairly sizable ecosystem of different components, devices, and elements that are required to create a solution, many of which the typical enterprise, even an industrial enterprise, would not be necessarily completely familiar with. So the question is, are the enterprises we talk to or reached out to just looking for basic connectivity, or the basic systems to just have the connectivity, or are they really looking for help in creating a complete end-to-end solution?
Yeah.
I'll ask you first. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, enterprises are taking different approaches to deployment, including both modular, where they may deploy one component at a time, like you said, installing the connectivity piece and then figuring out how best to take advantage of it, or taking a more holistic end-to-end approach. And in terms of preferences, according to the survey, most enterprises did say they would prefer an end-to-end approach. And the reasons they gave for that was that they would have fewer suppliers to manage. And getting back to the commercial issues we talked about already, it would help them to realize a lower cost of ownership and a faster return on investment. Some enterprises will look for an end-to-end approach because they have limited technical expertise in-house to take on solution development and integration. And if that's already been done by the provider, it should mean a much faster time to market or time to deployment. So doing it, more piecemeal, modular, sort of build a network and the use cases will come. That approach is fine if you have a big in-house development team with resources dedicated to internal innovation. But on the other hand, if you're looking to private wireless and industrial edge to drive specific business outcomes from the outset, and you don't want to spend on additional internal development cycles, then it makes sense that the end-to-end approach is the way to go. And something like 79% of those enterprises we talked to felt that way. Caroline, is that your experience in the early stages of this market? Are the customers looking for components or solutions?
Well, the results certainly confirm our approach, right? Because we do have an approach where we provide one platform for an industrial edge, the private wireless solutions, the applications, as well as the devices. So the fact that actually our customers prefer to buy it this way, it's great to see that confirmed. Because our aim is ultimately to simplify this complex process, right? Often new technology has to interact with legacy machines and people have to change the way they work. So having it all the ingredients for industrial digitalization in one platform to interface what's there makes it simpler. So that one approach makes it simpler than when you also have to go through a wide range of suppliers to get all these ingredients together. So it's great to see that indeed, as you said, the 79% of people prefer to have either a hybrid or an end-to-end approach. It really confirms our approach.
Great, thanks. So over the past year or more, actually, we've seen private wireless gaining some real traction, definitely accelerating in the past 12 months or so in terms of deployments and in trials in industrial verticals, or what we refer to as industrial verticals. But what are some of the other reasons that enterprise companies are looking to deploy it? It's a sort of multifaceted business case, isn't it, John?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what these companies' strategic priorities are, they're things like securing the IT environment, things like business continuity, also things like ESG, streamlining business operations, including automation, which can help with those ESG outcomes. So when companies look at Industry 4.0 and digitizing their operations, it's these sort of strategic priorities and business needs that are driving the investment. If you read the white paper, you can see there's a range of issues, though, that most respondents agreed were key factors in their decision to invest in private wireless and industrial edge. And number one on that list was worker safety. And that may not be intuitive to those of us who work in carpeted office environments, but in manufacturing, transportation, other industrial environments, it's a significant issue that organizations are pretty keen to embrace tech-driven solutions to improve outcomes. 95% said worker safety was a key or major factor in their decision to invest. Number two is closely related, and that's critical process reliability, a key factor for 94% of enterprises. Reliability of industrial operations is, one of the biggest KPIs in any of these organizations, and if private wireless can drive improvements in that KPI, then it's going to be considered. Some of the other factors or reasons may seem a little more obvious, but they were just as important to most companies. Things like automating data collection for enhanced insights, increasing operational agility, automating time-consuming tasks, and also improving cybersecurity by keeping mission-critical communications and applications in a private environment. Did you pick up these things too, Caroline, or are you picking them up from your own customers?
Yeah, I see again a similar confirmation. We hear a lot about productivity and quality as key drivers. So to see that 74% sees internal material flow efficiencies, right, after deploying and improved quality, about similar, also 74% actually, confirms really again that these objectives are actually that they can reach these with private wireless and industrial edge deployment. But as you said, right, John, the worker safety and sustainability are two type of objectives that we hear more and more as well. And the fact that I saw that in real world results, we could see that 61% sees an improvement of over 10% in worker safety is massive, right? That really will help with the reduction of accidents so that's always been a big objective. And the other one is probably sustainability and energy reduction, especially in the current climate, right, where the energy prices are rocketing, and the fact that in energy reductions, I believe it was 48% has actually seen energy reductions over 10%, and then the vast majority has seen some improvement, right, as well, is very, very promising. It really shows that digitalization pays off.
For sure. So if you could sum up, John, based on the research that we've done with Nokia, what do these industrial enterprises what are they expecting to get out of the investment? I mean, we've been touching on it all throughout here, but if you could sum up, what are they expecting to get from investing in these solutions, and what are the benefits they've achieved so far?
Yeah, so spoiler alert, Caroline mentioned quite a few of those in the previous in the previous section, but that was a key question in the survey of the various benefits you expected to achieve from private wireless. To what extent did they actually deliver? Because there was a range of expectations from connecting assets, worker safety, reducing costs, increasing production efficiency, and then things like reducing carbon emissions and energy consumption. And almost, all of the respondents agreed that increased levels of worker collaborations and decision making had been achieved following their deployments. And then when it comes to, the more operational things like operational efficiency and productivity, and specifically things like what you mentioned, Caroline, internal material flow efficiency, increased production quality, carbon emission reductions, and reduced downtime. Those benefits have been achieved by most, somewhere between 65 and 75% of all respondents. And then, when it comes to reducing energy consumption, something like 94% reported at least a slight reduction in energy use, and close to half of all companies reported more than a 10% reduction in energy consumption, which, as we all know, is currently a goal of every enterprise and every household, for that matter. So, Caroline.
Yeah, and it's great to see these results, right? Because, sorry for the spoiler alert, but these are good results, because often we have a conversation with customers on how they go about the digitalization, right? Connecting all assets, analyzing the data, creating the digital twin, and then automating. And then if you also deploy an industrial edge, you can get to autonomous action. But actually now this conversation becomes a lot more relevant when you also add what does that mean in terms of business results? And I think that's really what we've achieved with this research.
Definitely.
Yeah. So if I can summarize a couple of key things that came through loud and clear in your summary of the results of the survey. I'll tick off a few things here. First of all, return on investment and also total cost of ownership. Where met expectations, so they've delivered quality results from the sort of financial perspective, if you will, that the businesses were looking for, and that has happened already in the early stages of these deployments. Also, it was clear that the businesses, the industrial enterprises, were looking for end-to-end solutions. Of course, that stands to reason. They all have specific concerns, specific strategic objectives within their industry, and of course their company would be also unique within that industry. So they're looking to partner with companies on the end solution, just as opposed to installing the connectivity and having it managed for them. The other thing that came through clear was that there are clear benefits and value derived from these private wireless solutions that go beyond the sort of ones that make the headlines, the ultra low latency connectivity to support automated industry or processes. That's the stuff that makes the headlines, but and while that's delivering as expected, it's other benefits as well, including lower energy consumption, worker safety, better collaboration, better security, et cetera, which is a really interesting finding from the survey. And it's good because at GlobalData, of course, we've just came out with our 2023 key technology market research drivers, and a number of them link right into the findings of the survey. We note, for example, one of pervasive connectivity, where connectivity isn't so much in stovepipes that are somewhat separate of each other, mobile, fixed, other types of connectivity, but instead taken as a whole. And I think businesses want to look at it that way. Ultimately, they want pervasive connectivity to support any application that they want to run, including sort of next generation applications we've been discussing. Another big one that we're looking at is strategic ESG. So ESG that isn't a box check exercise, but something that actually helps drive a business forward and is part of their overall strategy. And if you think about it in that way, you have to think about it from the ground up, and that includes, how you run your applications and build your networks, what you're using, and how that contributes to the positive momentum in terms of energy consumptions and so forth. And then finally, ubiquitous cybersecurity is another one. And again, one of the drivers, as we found out in the survey for this, was to create a more holistic, secure environment that can be managed in that way, along with other elements of the connectivity puzzle, as I was describing. So all in all, really good synergy with what we're seeing at GlobalData as well. So with that, Caroline, over to you to sum things up.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. No, I think I have 2 points actually as a summary. One is the approach of digitalization, right, and buying behavior of enterprises. That this one platform approach, including all the ingredients like private wireless, Wi-Fi, apps, devices, industrial edge, is the preferred way of buying, and also is the preferred way of simplifying that whole process. So that's the first one. And the second one, I'm very pleased with the work that has been done by John, you, and Jerry by GlobalData, to see that these early adopters see a wide range of benefits, right, across a wide range of objectives. So it really shows that private wireless, industrial edge can help with Industry 4.0, accelerate it, make it simpler. So we have the full report, which is available online. We have issued a press release as well on this, on these ROI data points, where you can find the link and you can download it. So many thanks for working with us on this early adopter ROI research. And thank you very much.
Our thanks to Caroline Williams, Head of Enterprise Solutions Marketing at Nokia, Jerry Caron, Head of Research and Analysis at GlobalData, and John Marcus, Principal Analyst of Enterprise Technology and Services at GlobalData. To read the report, follow the link in the show notes. Thanks for listening to the Private Wireless podcast series from Nokia. Don't forget to subscribe and be the first to hear new episodes. If you're looking for more insights around all things private 4.9G LTE and 5G, contact the Private Wireless team at Nokia. To find us online, just search for Nokia Private Wireless and click Talk to an Expert to get in touch.